What if your home, your land, and your entire identity were erased before your eyes, and the world just watched? This isn't just about borders or politics. This is about a decades-long strategy, systematic, deliberate, and devastating, to erase an entire people from their homeland. Today, we uncover the deeper truth behind one of the most polarizing questions in modern history. Why is Israel trying to erase Palestine? Behind demolished homes, behind occupied streets, and forgotten headlines lies a reality shaped by control, displacement, and the slow erasure of an entire culture. This story isn't new. Its origins stretch back more than a century. At the end of the 19th century, a political movement known as Zionism emerged in Europe. It aimed to establish a national homeland for Jews, and it chose Palestine as its destination, a land already inhabited for generations by Arabs, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. With the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the arrival of British colonial rule, the foundations for today's conflict were laid. The 1917 Balfour Declaration promised support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, even though Palestinians formed the overwhelming majority of the population. Jewish immigration increased steadily under British protection, fueling tensions, uprisings, and violent clashes. In 1948, the situation exploded. Israel declared itself a state. For Jewish communities, it was the realization of a dream. For Palestinians, it marked the Nakba, the catastrophe. More than 700,000 Palestinians were forced to flee or were violently expelled. Over 400 villages were wiped off the map. Families were torn apart. Entire communities ceased to exist. But this was not chaos. It was strategy. Declassified documents show that early Zionist leaders had detailed plans for transferring peace Palestinians to ensure a Jewish majority. The State of Israel was born not just through war, but through ethnic cleansing, and it didn't stop there. In 1967, Israel captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza during the Six-Day War. These were supposed to be the heart of a future Palestinian state. Instead, they became occupied territories, where millions of Palestinians would live under Israeli military control for generations. Israel began building settlements, Jewish-only towns on Palestinian land, protected by walls, soldiers, and laws that applied only to settlers. These settlements aren't small outposts. They are cities with highways, schools, and armed protection, all while Palestinian villages nearby suffer from home demolitions, water shortages, and restricted movement. The aim is simple but unspoken: to fragment Palestinian territory so thoroughly that a real state becomes impossible. By creating facts on the ground, Israel can say, "There's nothing left to negotiate." But land is only part of the story. Israel's efforts to erase Palestine go deeper. Palestinian villages have been renamed with Hebrew names. Their ruins have been covered with pine forests to hide what once stood. Even memory is under attack. In East Jerusalem, Palestinians face constant pressure to leave. They are denied building permits, their homes are demolished for being illegal, and their schools are chronically underfunded. Their residency can be revoked without warning, leaving families stateless in the city of their birth. In Gaza, the situation is even more extreme. For over a decade, Israel has imposed a crippling blockade on Gaza, turning it into a prison. 2 million people are trapped, denied the right to leave, denied clean water, reliable electricity, and medical care. Repeated military assaults have killed thousands, many of them children. Entire neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble, and yet Gaza remains defiant. Israel frames all of this in the language of security. But how can demolishing a family's home make anyone safer? How can bombing hospitals and schools be called defense? The real objective is to make life so unbearable that Palestinians give up and leave. The legal system reinforces this imbalance. In the West Bank, two people living on the same land are subject to two different laws. Israeli settlers are governed by civilian law. Palestinians live under military law. One group has rights, the other has restrictions. The system is designed to break Palestinian hope, economically, socially, and psychologically. Even internationally, the imbalance persists. Western powers continue to send billions of dollars in aid and weapons to Israel. Palestinian resistance, when it arises, is labeled terrorism. Their stories are erased, censored, or ignored. When Palestinians speak, they are often silenced. When they mourn, they are told to stay quiet. And yet the Palestinian people remain. Despite every effort to push them out, to rewrite their history, to erase their culture, they endure. They remember. Children grow up learning the names of villages they've never seen. Elders hold keys to homes long destroyed. Poets, artists, and filmmakers document a culture that refuses to die. But the challenge is immense. While the world watches, often in silence, the land continues to shrink. The settlements expand. The walls grow taller. The checkpoints multiply. The headlines move on. And in the shadows, the plan continues. Erase Palestine not just from the land, but from the memory of the world. And yet, erasure isn't so easy, because you cannot erase a people whose identity runs deeper than borders. You cannot wipe out generations of stories, prayers, traditions, and resistance. The Israeli government may succeed in taking land, but it cannot take memory. It may control borders, but it cannot control truth. Palestine is not just geography. It is a people. It is a history, a culture, a cry for justice that continues to echo. And every time a Palestinian child learns the story of their family, every time a refugee refuses to forget, every time a voice dares to speak truth to power, the attempt at erasure fails. The fight to erase Palestine is not just military. It's cultural. It's legal. It's psychological. It's a battle fought on maps, in textbooks, in media, and in the silence of those who look away. But Palestine lives on, in the olive trees that refuse to die, in the broken walls that still whisper names, in the songs, the stories, and the memories passed down through exile and war. You can't erase people who refuse to forget who they are, and as long as the world remembers, as long as people care enough to ask why, the answer itself becomes resistance.